Talk us through how you knew Alistair.
Well, I kind of knew Alistair in two phases, really. So I was a journalist here in Scotland for 10 years before I went into politics. So I interviewed him many times when he was the Secretary of State for Scotland, when he was the Secretary of State for Transport, and other jobs within government. And then when I got elected and I became leader of the Scottish Conservative Party, I worked with him on the Better Together campaign, which he led, which was the campaign to keep Scotland within the United Kingdom. And I got to know him in that sort of 18 month to 2 year period. I think pretty well. And my regard for him could not have been higher. He was just the most solid sort of person that you could possibly hope to work with or for. And there is not a single person that works in the Better Together campaign that has a bad word to say about Alistair, because he absorbed so much pressure and let us do our roles within that campaign. And he was just the lightning rod for everything that was thrown at us. Oftentimes when people die, you say that they were a great man, and it sounds a bit twee. In this case, as unassuming as he was, Scotland has lost a very good servant today.
It's interesting you say that he absorbed the pressure in that campaign. I mean, many people would say that he did that throughout his career, particularly during the financial crash as well. What kind of politician do you think he was?
Well, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned the financial crash. So years after the IndyRef, I interviewed Christine Lagarde when she was the head of the IMF, and she was the finance minister in France at the time of the financial crash, and when he was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and they worked very closely together. In fact, all of the finance ministers of the G7 did, to try and stop everything from collapsing around the world. And I wasn't interviewing her about her role with anybody else, but she was at great pains to tell me what a fantastic sort of collaborator he was. And actually, the pressure that she said, it wasn't about how good an economist you were or how financially adept you were at the time. For all of these finance ministers who were making decisions, it was that ability. It was about character. It was about how you could make decisions under pressure. And you had to operate and make clear-sighted decisions all through the day, all through the night, all through the next day, all through the next night, because they didn't sleep for days. And she was at pains to tell me, and she knew that I was from a different political party, and she was like, I don't know what you think of him, but all I can say is he's the sort of person that you want. He was all character. He was so good under pressure. He just kept operating. He kept going. And to have somebody of that kind of stature talking completely unprompted about that while somebody's alive and not just doing the kind of kind words once they die thing, it really struck me. And everything that she said completely chimed with everything that I'd seen when we were in the middle of that campaign to keep the United Kingdom together. And Alistair gave so much of himself, and it was a real slog. I mean, it was 18 months, 2 years of a full-time campaign where it wasn't just the British press that were looking at us. There was media calls every day from every country in the world. It was enormous. And he just quietly got on with the job. And the respect I had for him because of the amount of care that he showed for everybody that worked for him and with him. He's just a really decent soul.